All right, everybody, welcome back to the Daily BLP. I think we're on episode 6, just marching right down the road one day after another. Hey, this episode, like all of them before it, are brought to you by Panacea Smart Solutions. You can see lots of logos and stuff behind me here. We want to be your partner when it comes to IT services or revenue cycle management, if you're a healthcare organization, digital marketing, if you're anybody, virtual assistants, and more. But welcome to the show again, everybody. We've got a couple things we want to cover today. We should be having Bob join us again to talk a little bit about sales process stuff. He booked another meeting yesterday with a pretty big opportunity. So I'm excited to pick his brain a little bit about that. We just listened to the call pre-show starting. So I've got a couple things to ask and a couple coaching things too, because he's relatively new in the MSP world side of things, and I think it'll help him. But one of the things I wanted to hit on to get started is you guys met Jamie a couple episodes ago, and Jamie shared with me this morning, an article she found in regards to changes in HIPAA compliance stuff. So, as you may or may not know, depending on how much of our stuff you've watched, a lot of our clients are healthcare organizations or clinics and things like that. And, we're responsible for keeping them HIPAA compliant when it comes to how, technology interfaces with that. Not all things about HIPAA is technology. Sometimes it's about the words we say when other people are around, or things that people can see, or how we house physical infrastructure. But there's been some changes. So just wanted to talk a little bit about that. And these changes that have happened, they started actually happening last year, 2024. There was some kind of stats that kind of poked their head out and showed some real issues over the last few years. So one of the things I saw is that from 2018 up until 2024, the number is that there's been a 1,002% increase in the affected individuals of, cybersecurity, hacking, and things happening in the healthcare industry due to, organizations being compromised. And that could be directly from, let's say, a clinical organization or a hospital, or to the insurance payers that are connected with them. We know recently, last year, the Change Healthcare thing was a huge deal that happened that brought a lot of people to their knees in the healthcare industry. And it prompted a significant update to HIPAA security rules. And that covers everything from, requiring things like multi-factor authentication. That's, where when you log into something, it asks you to put a auto-generated code in, and maybe that code gets sent to your phone, maybe it gets sent to an app, maybe it gets sent to your email. Lots of ways to do that, some ways more secure than others. Making those kind of things mandatory, making encryption mandatory for any type of removable storage media. Things like technology asset inventories and network maps annually must be organized and presented. Enforcing 24-hour reporting on security incidents. So if something does happen, no matter how large or small, that it's reported within 24 hours. Workforce access termination within 1 hour of employment termination. I think, companies have gotten pretty quick about that, but there's a lot of different moving parts that sometimes folks don't remember one thing or another. And you come back and find, a month or two later, someone still has access to some system within your organization. So within 1 hour, that's quite a turnaround. Documentation requirements have expanded as well. New requirements like keeping detailed security policies for 6 years and conducting annual compliance audits. Other things too, requiring annual penetration testing and biannual vulnerability scans. So at least once a year, having an organization come in, provide and performing an external penetration test. Biannual vulnerability scans. So these are more internal things to find vulnerabilities in your network where things can be exploited. So there's a lot of changes, and I think as much as a pain as it might be, they're necessary, because it's pretty scary when your information gets compromised, and you find out just because, let's say, you're a patient, or third-party organizations that are working with a company that gets exploited, all of a sudden their private information is stolen and held ransom too. So it's a big deal. It's going to shift a focus on that we have internally. We have to go back and look at all of our clients that we've held in HIPAA compliance up to this point, find out if any of these new changes affect what we're doing for them, and making sure that we're complying. Typically, our rule of thumb is to go above and beyond, or an extra mile beyond what the minimum is. It's never great to just be stuck on the minimum. To do the minimum plus, but we're going to need to go through all of our clients that we're working with, whether they're an IT client, that we're responsible for the systems that they have in place when it comes to compliance, or just a normal client that we're not doing IT for, that let's say we're doing revenue cycle management for, but we're handling sensitive information, and we need to make sure that the pieces that we have in place protect them, right? So these pieces we have in place for our company are protecting that information that we have access to, because we're working with those folks. So we're going to have to take a serious look at some of these things. There's going to be, to some degree, it's going to affect the cost of doing business for us, and to some degree, it's going to present revenue opportunities for us as an organization as well. So a bit of a double-edged sword, right? So that should be fun. It looks like via this blog, healthcare organization.
That should be fun. And
Yeah.
I would like to add here, Brian, we can do some awareness email campaign on this to educate our existing clients, like what is the changes is
Yeah, so what I'll
happening
do, I'll
with
share that blog with you, Manish. If you guys want to
right,
brainstorm, run through it, brainstorm, pull some stuff out of it, and then you can it should be relatively soon. So maybe for the next, because what I was just about to say is organizations have 180 days to comply once the rule takes effect. So we're going to want to look at what's the date that these new rules take effect, and if there's any way possible to get out in front of that as much as possible so we can communicate things. Again, create campaigns that give people the information without any expectation of money in return. But if they decide they don't have the resources to make the changes, we can put ourselves out there to help. Yeah, cool. Anyway, let me check real quick and see if Bob emailed me back. Sorry, I'm not going to be able to. Okay, he can't make it in today. No problem. That's okay. We'll talk a little bit about how he did, and he's not here to defend himself, so that's okay. All right, so let's chat about that. So I got an email. I had a meeting. Had that meeting yesterday that I talked about yesterday at 11. That went really good, by the way. Local organization, without giving too much away. They are a law firm locally that are working with a different MSP that just have been dropping the ball for a number of reasons. So we had a really good conversation about what their expectations were and what the reality is of the services they're getting. So that's why they're looking to move away, and that's a really good point, I think, to cover when it comes to companies like us that paint a picture or make promises on what we can deliver. And then if the reality of those promises aren't met when we're, working with our clients, it doesn't take long for that to be to come to the top, like rise to the top. And there's lots of options for other places for people to go. And we put performance clauses in our agreement. So if we're not doing a great job, someone can let us know and we can look at, other opportunities for them. But in this case, I think the moral of the story is do what you say you're going to do. But if you can't really do those things, just don't say you can do them. It ends up doing more damage in the end, right? If you're not willing to either make things right and do those things, it's just going to do more damage. Because one client that leaves you that with a sour taste in their mouth turns into 10, 10, 15, 20 more clients you'll never get because they'll hear about it, right? So anyway, meeting with these folks, really good meeting. I think they were encouraged by the questions that I was asking. I generally don't do a lot of talking. I ask a lot of my talking is questions. So I do a lot of listening and writing down and trying to dig into the lower implications of the problems that they're having and how it's affecting them. We'll do a little bit more of that this coming week because it's scheduled a network assessment. So I'll go back with a technical resource. The technical resource will do network scans and take inventory of stuff. And then I will sit down with probably 4 or 5 of their employees and just interview them for about 5 to 10 minutes each and find out what's really going on and what their experiences are to make sure whatever I put together and present in our proposal covers those things and solves those problems. That's our technique. And so I booked the network assessment and I booked the presentation 2 weeks from now. So another coaching point with this kind of stuff, if you're doing B2B or even B2C to some degree, depending on kind of the transactional timeline or the sales cycle, book a meeting from a meeting. Even after you close a deal, book a meeting from that meeting to check and see how things are going. But especially when you haven't secured a new business for your organization, if you've got someone that shows interest, and as long as they're not giving you a hard no, always keep that thing moving forward. So a lot of times what people will do is they'll go into a discovery meeting and they'll have a great meeting, learn a lot of stuff, and they'll have no plan in mind for the next step. They'll kind of just leave it open to the potential client. Hey, this sounds great. I think we'd be a really good fit. What would you like to do? Do you want to take the next step? Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? I never ask if they really want to. I always kind of say, hey, based on what we've talked about, I think this is going to be a really good fit. The next step is to have a network assessment. Well, what does your calendar look like next week, Tuesday, next week, Wednesday? And it just set expectation of we're just going to do this meeting because we've both just agreed that what we've talked about, there's a fit so far. Right. If I would have had a meeting with them and found out that, if I would have given them kind of a soft idea of what this thing's going to cost, I'll do that a lot. I'll find out what they're spending. If what they're spending is so below what they're going to be spending working with us for what it sounds like they want, I'll throw it out there. I'll say something as like, hey, just want to be sure, we might get to the end of this in a couple weeks and you really like us and we really like you, but this might end up, costing $1,500 a month. Is that a deal breaker? Is that something that's just not going to be in your budget? And if they say, oh, there's no way, I spend $200 now, I can't spend $50. If there's just such a disconnect, I'll just be like, that's fine. That's fine because we're going to spend a lot of time, energy, effort, and company money getting them to the table to present a deal. If we're so far from that that it's not going to happen, then that's okay. Typically I've learned enough in that initial meeting that even if they're spending zero at that point, and by the questions that I've asked and the pain that I've uncovered, they've realized in that meeting that they're going to have to spend some money. And I'll say something like, hey, this might be around $1,500 when all's said and done to do all these things for you. Is that going to be okay with you? They might say, well, geez, that's a lot of money and I'm not spending anything now, but I really need to find out what's going wrong and see if this is something that I need to be doing to correct all these problems. Then we'll move forward because there's a huge chance that I can show them that the money they think they're not spending, they're spending. They just don't realize it, right? They're spending, a couple grand a month in employee lost time because employees they've got 50 employees that waste 30 minutes a day waiting for their computer to boot up or lock up once or twice. And those are real that's real money that can be solved, right? So anyway, really good meeting with these guys. I got another one, a network assessment with them coming up, which is great. I think that'll go really good. And then the next meeting, a presentation, we'll invite them here. We'll feed them lunch, roll out, as much of a red carpet as we have to let them know that, we're a legitimate company doing stuff, and we have real people that they can count on, and we'll see if we get a new client. So that should be fun. So yeah, Bob's not going to join us today. I got the email that he's not coming, but like I said, we listened to his call. So we have a little bit of insight into his techniques. I'm interested to hear, Matt, you own a business that works with businesses. I know you cold call people. I know you reach out and you got me on LinkedIn. I know you send emails. What'd you think of the way he handled the call?
Yeah, I thought it was great. I thought he did really good about, I think one thing that, especially in sales calls and people try to do is, big, long pauses in the goal that you're going to come out and say something and things like that. I think Bob did a great job of just staying calm, cool, collected, and sharing that he didn't get off the phone until he had, another meeting or, a meeting in the books to meet in person. So I thought he did great. I thought his demeanor, kind of his candor was really good. The calm, cool, collected, not like, hey, buy this, like come and just, his demeanor was what really stuck out to me. And I thought he did a great job there.
Yeah, I agree. It's growing on me. At first, I thought it sounded like that he was just kind of a fish out of a water, but it's not. It's really just he's calm, and he's okay with whatever the other person says. I mean, in this one, I saw at the beginning of the call that he said, "Hey, I'm just calling you back. We spoke a little while back." The guy he talked to didn't even remember, and I'm not surprised. It sounded from the call like this was someone at the top of their internal IT food chain, which is fine. This is a relatively good-sized manufacturing company. And he said, yeah, we spoke before. Oh, I don't remember. I got a lot going on. Sure, I understand. Well, let me just tell you what I've got here. So we talked about you guys do work with an IT company, but you kind of left it open to sometime, being available for us to come in and introduce ourselves and learn a little bit more. And he's like, oh. It's not like the guy who was talking to was super excited for us to come, but there was this natural inclination to be like, well, yeah, I guess next week on this day would be okay. And then he took the cue and kind of booked it from there. Manish, what else did you pick up on from his call?
Oh yes, Brian. So exactly. So I support the Matt. What he said. What I like about this call. So basically, he didn't want to sell anything. Not a meeting, not a product, not a service, nothing. So he initiated a conversation. He tried to understand the problem. Then he came up with some small solution, whatever he thought, like what I can explain right now. And the best thing is that smartly he understood, okay, how I can get the time. So he's thinking about the next week. So probably he's free in the next week sometime.
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask the good time for the next week. So instantly he booked the meeting and he get appointment. So that I think that was a great job. And exactly. So I again say, like, I supported what Matt said.
Yeah.
The calm and composed, the way he initiated a conversation in a very friendly manner, not like a salesperson, to just going and approaching, hey, I'm calling from this, and I just want your 30 seconds to discuss about something. So that seems like a sales call, and we don't want to discuss something like that. If I call you like, hey, Brian, this is Manish, and I was just saying, like, I was just calling you to understand your IT, how it's going on. So I think that's how we can build a conversation and we can book a meeting. So completely. In my overall perspective, he has done a great job.
Yeah, he did pretty good. The other good thing he did is a lot of the times when folks will book a meeting, they'll be so excited because it's hard work and there's a lot of failure, quote unquote, individual kind of not getting the result you want over and over and over again. Finally, you get one. He acted like he'd been there before. It's kind of like he didn't just score a touchdown and start celebrating like a knucklehead who's never gotten to the end zone before. He's like, calmly put the ball down. Sounds good. Let's get this booked up. What time is good for you? Is morning or afternoon better? And he nailed those things down. And then, because I know I felt this, and you guys have all felt this too if you've taken telemarketing calls, you're kind of like, well, I've got this guy off my back. Can we get off the phone now? He still persisted and said, hey, just a couple quick questions just to make sure when we get there, we can do a good job of understanding what's going on. And then he's like, how many computers do you have? And then, he got some of that information. And then what about servers? What about this, that, and the other thing? So being able to, extend the duration of that call, not too much. It was just over 5 minutes. I think that's pretty fair. And get that information so he can give that to me so I can be a little bit prepared. I will say that, this is one of the things I was going to cover a little bit on the call, but I'll work with him individually on it, is he doesn't have a background in IT. He's not he wasn't formally a technician. He didn't get schooled in IT. He went to school for business and stuff like that, and I think it shows in his confidence. And so I'm going to just talk to him a little bit about some of the verbal cues and things that in that call, the person he was talking to, what they said and what he needs to equate that to quickly in order to have the person he's talking to feel like he's talking to somebody who knows what they're talking about. But I will say the person on the other end was graceful. I've listened to calls, and early in my career been on calls when I've said something that was just dumb in regards to technical knowledge, and they've just been like, are you serious? You don't know what that, okay, bye. And then just totally lost it. That didn't happen with Bob, so that's cool. But yeah, so I'll work on that with him a little bit, and I think that'll just set him up to seem just a little more seasoned when he's talking to IT people. You won't get that from business owners for the most part, or higher level management a lot of the times, because there's only their breadth of knowledge, unless they're doing the IT work, is only so wide. But I'll work with that on him. But otherwise, man, I tell you, you go so long with either working with people or drought on these kind of things. It's just a breath of fresh air that he's consistently starting to get more and more. And here's the other cool thing that came to my mind. This call that we listened to wasn't the first call in the chain. So a lot of times you get so discouraged, you're calling, voicemails knows, wrong numbers, all this. You might take notes and you have the intention of getting back, but you never really get back. You just kind of keep calling down the black hole of the endless list of businesses to call. But he's doing a really good job, and I think this is a part of Arsenal and their process. So kudos to Bob for following it, and kudos to those guys for building such a good product and service, is that they classify when they're making calls. Okay, this is considered a warm lead because of whatever. This is considered a these are ones that I know I've got LinkedIn information on. I'm going to send them an invite so it goes into this other little bucket. This one is ice cold, no way, blah blah. No, not in our wheelhouse. So like when I go into the system and kind of check on progress, I can see some of those things that they're doing. It's actually really cool when I go to the dashboard here in the portal they give me. They're using a customized Salesforce. I don't even want to know what this costs them, but so they've got he's got a to-do list that I can see of, here's his to-do list for sending LinkedIn requests to certain, company individuals, warm leads and waits. He's got a whole list of those. He's got the list of appointments he's booked. I can see the call results for this week so far. So for instance, it shows me 2 appointments. He's spoken to 9 decision makers. He's been disconnected twice or had two disconnected numbers, spoken to 2 gatekeepers. He's left only 1 voicemail. So he's not leaving voicemails all the time, which I totally am an advocate for. 51 of them, no left voicemails. And then 1 of them was a wrong location or a wrong number. So it's cool. He's only made 71 calls this week and he's got two appointments. So I'm ecstatic. Now it's up to me to close some deals. And the close ratio I think will be lower than what I normally have, because usually when I take an initial meeting, they have a need, right? It's like I've always been very strict with either cold caller saying don't book me an appointment from someone that doesn't have an express need, and inbound calls typically have a need, right? If you get an inbound call or email, it's because they've found you to solve their need. Like the one I went on yesterday was an inbound. But the good thing about getting out on all these appointments that they're booking is it's making a name for ourselves in person and making connections. And some of these will turn into, hey, it's just an initial meeting. Now they know about us. Now we know about them. We can follow up with them more. When they do have a need, they know who to call because they've already met and got some trust there. But we're going to close some deals on these too, and it's going to turn into some good business growth. So cool. Awesome sauce. Hey, should we look at Doge? Are you guys like watching this stuff now? I haven't looked at it yet.
I haven't looked today, but I've been keeping a pulse check on it.
Yeah. Oh, what happened? I just missed those reminders. Okay.
I did see there was one thing Doge did. I believe it was like they made it like a $1 credit card limit now or something like that. That's one thing I saw in the news.
Anything that's not needed, they've either completely canceled those credit cards, and there's like hundreds of thousands of them, canceled them or moved them to less than $1 limit if they stay open. Right? That's crazy. I just thought, I think we covered that in one of the episodes. It's just nuts how things get bloated so quick. All right. Since recording yesterday morning, some of the updates. Let's start. Man, there's a lot of them. No, there's not. Yesterday's first update. Yesterday was the 3rd, right? Yeah. Was at 8:28 p.m. They tend to do the updates at night because I think they're doing all this work, and then they've got confirmed things that they can want to share. 8:28 yesterday, the Office of Personnel Management, just approximately 2,500 employees, budgeted $370 million for IT spending in the fiscal year 2025. So this year, they believe this value can be reduced by almost 80%. While maintaining equivalent levels of service. Additional reductions include, let's see, what is you got to pop over to X to see the full list of it. Okay, so this is in our wheelhouse. We're doing IT. So if we were doing their IT and they were planning to pay us $370 million, we'd probably be upset that some of that's getting cut. But so what do some of these things include? $1.9 million for studies on quantum cryptography and quantum response readiness. Quantum cryptography and response readiness. Okay. This is studies. This is just like kind of experimental things, like pay people to see if this is possible. Okay. 1.5 million. And this is the Office of Personnel Management. It's like, okay. 1.5 million for support on a large number of OPM-wide AI proof of concepts and pilots. $364,000 for 1,000 unused cybersecurity software licenses, and $121,000 for unused Zoom licenses. Been there. Definitely spent a few money on Zoom licenses that should have been turned off a couple months in advance. All right. Well, I'm okay with that. If you don't need it, don't spend the money on it. DoD Rapid Response. Chief Pentagon spokesman said Sean Parnell on initial Doge findings at the DoD. I don't get it. Great job. Okay. It doesn't really say anything on that update. Not sure what that means. Updated data on DEI related contract cancellations. Have anybody on the call with me, so Matt, Manish, Manoj, have any of you guys ever been a part of any organizations that made you kind of go through DEI stuff? Like trainings, or, HR says, hey, you got to take this training, and it's...
Not that I could think of. Only thing I could think of is maybe like college orientation or something like that.
Oh, really?
I have been in a training process in Cognizant. So in Cognizant, I started working. I only worked 3 months in the Cognizant because I felt like this is a monotonous job for me.
Yeah.
So, and during my 3 months initial career, that all was the training phase.
Oh,
So they had a 3 months onboarding training program, and whatever position they hire you, suppose they are hiring you for the marketing manager or digital marketing manager, but still they will give you a training on the Facebook ad campaigns, LinkedIn ad campaigns, Twitter ad campaigns, whatever. They don't care about your certification, what you have done in your
yeah.
educations. They give every training in fresh. So they have three training modules. Like one is a soft skill, then hard skill, and then the final training program is like the organizational level training.
How
So
about like with this stuff? Are you familiar with DEI, Manish? I don't know. Did it? So that's this
no.
diversity, equity, inclusion, and that's where
Okay.
they kind of sit you down. Again, I've never been a part of it, so it's only kind of like what I've learned from what other people have said. Is it kind of sit you down, depending on whatever your, let's say, race is or ethnicity or sexual orientation or stuff, and they basically dictate to you who you are, where you fit, and what you're allowed to say, think, and do in the midst of social interaction. And from what I've seen, again, not an expert, never been through it, so I can't say how good or bad it is. But from what I've seen, the results of it it's not great. You know, it makes one class of people feel that they're inferior, and another class feel that they're super protected, but only because of maybe immutable characteristics that you have, the way you look, the way you sound, the way whatever. And I mean, it's interesting that it was apparently meant to make things more inclusive and diverse and solve problems between people, and all it really did is divide people even more. And that's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy the differences between intentions and results. I think that's where the whole good and the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Yeah. So intention is good. Like they are, I don't know what is the objective of this training, what they want to
Depends on who you
achieve
talk
from
to.
that.
Some people think the
Exactly.
objectives is to socialize everything and make one class of people feel inferior because of a past that they can't control. And it all depends on who you talk to.
And
But
I think that was the issue with it is everyone had a different idea of what it meant, and that caused for overlap, and then people started arguing with each other. So I think there wasn't like a clear what the heck does this, what do we do with this? I think that was part of the issue as well.
and a big thing is I think what it did, like with a lot of things that become, you know, popularized or monetizable, is it created a huge class of business grifters that would go out and say, we're the experts on this, pay us to teach everybody in your organization, pay us millions and millions and millions, because if you don't, you're going to end up with a toxic organization full of people that hate each other and stuff. And that's ended up what happened with these things. Like it divided people and it turned all this us against them kind of stuff, just junk. Anyway, so it looks like total contracts, there were 297. These were DEI contracts in the government. Ceiling value of those were $2.167 billion. And the savings so far from cutting them has been $1.465 billion. So what about, what's this most recent was from, this morning, 9:39 a.m. Update, the daily average rate of federally pumped water flowing towards Southern California, so everybody knows what happened down there, right? Lots of fires. Increased by over 27% in February compared to January. Keep up the great work at USBR at Interior. Congratulations to the administration on DOI's Bureau of Reclamation for more than doubling the federally pumped water flowing towards South Carolina in less than Southern California. South Carolina, what is that? Less than 72 hours. That was from the original post a couple weeks back. So, man, what do you guys think of that? Like turning off the water for the last couple years to all this land, and then it's just drying. And I think they said something about that it would save fish. I'm pretty sure fish need water. Maybe I just don't know the science.
Yeah, maybe what they taught us in school was wrong about the gills and the fish and everything. You never know.
I'm sure there's some deep explanation, like too much water, it'll be too much of this fish, and this fish will eat this fish, and if this fish gets eaten, then we're all going to die, and it's going to be terrible. But what it did is, when it looks like it appears to have done, it was just dried out a whole section of that part of the country, and all it took was a spark for disaster to happen.
Yep. No, yeah, really, really crazy. And yeah, it didn't feel like it was handled really the best either. I mean, I feel like there could have hope. I mean, I'm not obviously don't know much about how fires and taking them out and things like that, but I feel like there definitely could have been some things in place, things to have been done, because I mean, wow, just the amount of homes lost, the amount of tragedy that happened, you know, feel so bad for all the people that happened to, but man, I just feel like there should have and could have been some things to prepare for this, especially in a state like that where you know that's what the environment is like that, you know?
Yeah, it's wild. I don't know. I don't know like how because maybe it's just because of what you see, and what we can see is predicated on what we're shown if we're not there. But it just seemed like we saw lots of images of fire just ripping through, and we saw lots of images of folks that were kind of, you know, standing in the rubble, and you could tell they're really emotional and sad. But what I haven't really seen is like a real ground zero kind of emotional state of all the people, like hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people affected by loss, and some people are never going to get back what they had, and it's going to be a struggle to rebuild, and I'm sure, I don't know if
I also heard, and I don't know the validity to this, but I heard something where it was like they cut like the budget for firefighters or something like a few months before. So there was some sort of budget cut. I want to say I heard that.
Yeah, and like I said, I usually don't like the conspiracy theory kind of stuff, but it's not hard when you see certain things happening to kind of put the pieces together and like okay, if I was going to prepare for something bad to happen or to help something bad happen, what would I do? Well, I'd fire a big portion of, or cut the budget on firefighters so that there wouldn't be enough people to, you know, help this issue or try to resolve this issue. I would definitely turn off the water, because fire and water don't play nice in the sandbox, and other things, right? I would definitely, you know, have a plan made for what this area of the state would look like if it was rebuilt to be more technologically advanced and stuff like that. Well, I can't do that with all the old stuff still there and all the people still, like all these things that you see were like pieces of the puzzle in place before all this stuff happened. It's like, I still don't want to say I believe all that's true, but it's like, it darn well could be.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. No, I'm 100% on agreement there with you. And yeah, because, you know, obviously you want to go with the facts and you don't want to, just believe everything you see. But at a certain point, your brain starts churning these thoughts.
Well, I mean, especially when you've been like hoodwinked in the last 4 years in the medical world. Like, we were all gaslighted, you know, when COVID came out. Oh, it's the market. Oh, it came from a bat. Oh, it came from guano, whatever. It was like whatever weird concoction you could come up with, and we bought it hook, line, and sinker. At least as a whole, we bought it. I never thought it came from Whitmark. I remember getting in an argument with my best friend within a couple months of this whole thing going. I'm like, dude, do you really think things that are like those wet markets in China have been around for thousands of years? That's how they do business. That's how they pass food around. You just think that all of a sudden out of nowhere, a super virus came from a bat that somebody ate. No, that's not how that works. It doesn't just go from this to this, that. Something has to get it there. That's not how evolution works either. It does. You don't just all of a sudden have no arms and the next version of you has arms. You know what I mean? It's like, so I remember a big argument. He's like, no, that's what they said. That's got to be where it came from. I go, looks to me like it was probably created. I mean, you know, everything. So, and sure enough, here it is, and we all know it, and everybody who told us not to think that, they're still the ones behind the cameras and the ones with the loudest voices. So And then when you have these kind of things that happen, you're like, something is not right. It's like Peter and the wolf. It's like the boy who cried wolf. And it's unfortunate because when something really does happen where there's no conspiracy behind it, you've got a big group of us that are like trying to still call BS. It's hard. Sucks. But Doge.
Yeah, it's kind of like in business almost. I was just saying it's like obviously, you have relationships with, clients and things like that, and you want to trust them and you should trust them. But my thing is, trust but verify. You want to trust people. You don't want to be like, oh, everyone's out to get you lying. But you got to verify. You got to think for yourself. You got to do your own research. And I think that's kind of, a little bit back to like how we can kind of compare that to business. I feel like, just verify, make your decisions and do your research. But, you want to try to trust people, but you just got to verify.
Yeah, and it's the ones that take advantage of a situation because they have some sort of an angle that ruins it for everybody. Like we're going through something right now with a client that is taking advantage of a situation earlier in our relationship where their staff asked us to make a change in the way we did things. We made that change. They confirmed that's what they wanted. We did it like that for a year and a half. Now someone above their head at that client is saying, no, you shouldn't have done that. You should have checked with me first. We didn't even know that person existed. The level of person that signed their agreement with us is the level of the person that okayed the change. We didn't even suggest the change. They're like, here's what we want you to do. Take this. Does this? Yep, this is what we'll do. Are you sure you want us to do this? Yep, that's what we want to do. It's all, in writing form and emails. And this person is still saying that we were in kind of breach of contract because we made this change without them knowing or getting sign off on it and amending the contract. And that's obvious. It's obviously a stretch. And I could sit it down in front of 100 different people we've had relationships and they'd be all like, this is garbage. If I have, upper management level or key leadership level staff that you're responsible for working with and they tell you to make a change, you should make that change. If they end up being wrong, we'll admit it and make a correction, right? And we never said we didn't want to help them fix whatever they wanted to change, but it was, we weren't willing to like, get down on our knees and ask for forgiveness for doing something that we were instructed to do. But it's like that will ruin it for every other relationship we have going forward. Now, we, to a T, if someone that, is our liaison or main contact, if they're not the highest person in that organization, ownership, board, whoever is, deemed to be the highest person, we're going to have to say, we can't make this change until we have a request in writing. It's signed by them and it's signed by us. And that slows things down. It builds distrust between the people actually doing the work. It's junky. But now we're going to have to do that. So, and it's exactly what you're talking about, right? It's like you've probably been burned. Now I've got to make an adjustment to what I do that makes business not as not malleable is not the wrong word. Not as smooth and productive. So anyway, cool. All right. Well, like I was good job, Doge. Keep up the good work. I also like how they're putting these updates. They're tweeting out when someone in a government agency who's like not being a jerk about things is like on board with fixing things. Like they're being like, hey, good job at Department of Defense for, having a rapid response to this and getting this thing done. They're not just, robotically going through all these things. And I think this is great.
Yeah, and it's so important to just acknowledge the good things. Yeah, didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just saying, I think especially just in all, like restaurants, anything like that, you'll go on Yelp and bunch of it's just mainly negative reviews. People love to say the negative things, but they don't like to call out the good. So I think it's so important and so cool that they're acknowledging the good things too, because then it encourages people to keep going and keep doing that stuff. So I think that's just really great they're doing that.
Cool. All right. Well, I think we've used up all of our time. We covered some good stuff today. We'll be back tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel, and with some updates, some good stuff, and we'll just keep her going. Thanks everybody for joining us for the daily BLP, and keep rocking and rolling out there, everybody. Work hard. All right.